Okay, is everybody ready?
Yeah, can you just speak loud so we can get it? Sorry.
You bet. So my name's Aaron Hummel, Aaronhummel. I'm the operations chief for Boise Fire. With me is the airport director, Rebecca Hupp. We had a incident tonight that we were notified about 5 p.m. Unfortunately, there was a collapse of a building that was under construction. So I understand it was a hangar that was under construction. We did have about a dozen people that were impacted as far as being in or around the collapse area. We've had numerous transports on this, and I'm not going to get into the condition of individual patients because we're trying to get a hold of all family members and so forth. Boise police are working to help with the reunification of any family members. Any other specific questions for you?
Who owns the property that the hangar's on?
It is on the Boise Airport's property, but it was not a city facility.
Can you, the construction company working on the project?
I don't actually know the construction company, nor do I know which crane was being used that was involved.
And it was the Jackson Jet Center hangar?
I've heard that. It's adjacent to the Jackson Jet Center building, but I don't know exactly who owned the project.
Is the Firehawk helicopter pad, is that part of Jackson's too? Because it seemed like it was right in front.
Do you know the answer to that question?
Jackson Jet Center actually owns the Firehawk facility as well.
Okay, good
Yeah.
to know.
When you say about a dozen people impacted, does that mean injured? Were there any fatalities? Can you give any details?
Yeah, there were a dozen people injured. I can't speak to the condition of individual patients. We're trying to get a hold of family members at this time. I know that we had about 7 fire engines, 3 ladder trucks, probably at least a dozen ambulances that came to the scene tonight, in addition to an initial response from the airport. The accident did not impact air operations. We maintained fire protection coverage during the incident for the aircraft that were coming and going during the incident.
What caused the collapse?
We don't know that yet. Boise Police is heading up the investigation. We have an OSHA investigator here as well at this point. That'll be part of the investigation group.
What hospitals were the victims taken to?
I don't know exactly which, if it was multiple hospitals or if it was just one.
Okay.
I haven't gotten that information.
Okay.
Can you explain what you mean by collapse exactly?
Yeah, there was a large-scale collapse of the building, the framework of the building. I don't know what caused it, but I can tell you that it was a pretty global collapse that occurred. The main structural members came down. It was fairly catastrophic.
Was it attached to the crane at the time? I saw the crane in the middle.
I know that they were actually placing some sort of members at the time, and it did collapse the crane as a result of the building collapsing.
So the crane did fall on the structure
I
of
think
the
that,
hangar?
yeah, I don't know exactly because I didn't see it beforehand, but I know the crane was impacted.
Do you know the state of the building beforehand? Like, what was it fully built?
Oh no, it was there was what's called a rigid steel frame that had been erected, and they were still working on some of those structural components, tying those together.
Search and rescue efforts, when did those wrap up? Are they ongoing?
We've accounted for everybody that was in or around the collapse area. We did have some that were challenging, and that there was hoists and so forth that our technical rescue team made entry and were able to rescue those people.
Do you know about how many people were in the area during the time?
I know we have a dozen people or so that were injured in the collapse. I don't know exactly beyond that how many people happened to be around and maybe saw it and weren't injured.
So what happens during the night?
This will be all night long. We're preparing for scene lighting and so forth. Obviously, we have a lot of investigation to do. The primary concern right now is we need to make contact with family members so they can be reunified and so forth.
And just to confirm, everyone is accounted for at this point?
We've accounted for everybody, yes. Yes.
Are there any concerns about further collapses around that area?
No, I don't believe so.
When you first arrived, was it secure when they first arrived?
Absolutely not. I mean, it was a very chaotic scene, as you can probably imagine, when initial units got here. I didn't get here till much later.
Right.
But yeah, it was a pretty, chaotic scene initially.
So what's that process like when you show up to a hangar in such condition?
Sure.
So your guys and girls safe going in?
Sure. Yeah, that's the first thing. We always do some type of initial size up to try to figure out what type of threats we have to not only civilians but responders, and really power lines down, anything like that. So we have to take a pretty cautious approach try to figure out what we're going to need for resources, which is why we had a pretty significant fire and EMS response and police response tonight.
Who initially called it in? Do you know?
I don't know. It was called into the 911 center. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Did you say how many fatalities there are?
We're not releasing condition of any patients at this point because we're trying to contact family members. I can tell you there was about a dozen people that were injured in the collapse.
What was the name of the company working? The construction
I don't know the name of the construction company. I don't know the name of the crane. I know that the building was under construction adjacent to Jackson Jet. That's about all we know at this point.
But the property is owned by the
It
airport, which
is
the
on
city,
the, it
which
is, yes, it is on city property. It's the airport's property, but it was not a city building. It was a private building.
When will that information about the victims be released?
Once we're able to contact the family, and we'll coordinate that with Boise Police.
What is the state of the mind of the first responders who are assisting with the search and rescue?
That's a real challenge for us. We do have a peer support team that is working with our responders. It's when we have major incidents, that's something that we've in recent years really tried to pay attention to, and we do have that process already in motion.
I know you can't give status of how many people have been died, but can you confirm whether or not any have?
I cannot, not at this point.
There's also a lot of construction going on at the Boise airport right now. How will this impact other construction projects?
Yeah, I'll pass that to the airport director, if you don't mind.
We do have a number of projects under construction right now at the airport that are airport projects. I would say they are substantially more complete than what this project was. This was a very early stage project and only had framework up. Most of our projects that are currently under construction are in the final completion stages, but of course we're going to be focused on safety.
But this was not a Boise Airport project.
This was not a Boise Airport project, no. It's on the airfield, so it's on airport property because we own all of the property around the airfield, but there are many private facilities on airport property. That lease space, correct, sir.
Was the crane a city crane or was it a private crane?
It was not a city crane.
Any other questions before we wrap up?
Is the site secure? Is there like concerns around gas leaks or anything like that?
Nope, we've made sure that there's no utility issues or anything in the area, so the scene is secure. There's no threat to the public. We do have it locked down. Wright Street is pretty much entirely closed so that we can have, emergency vehicles and investigators going through.
So this will be closed throughout the night, you think?
I don't know if it'll be closed all night. That's something that I'll work with Boise Police on. But we'll tweet that out. Any follow-up updates we'll send out via our Boise Fire Department Twitter page.
How long did it take to get everybody out? Do you have a time frame?
I'd be speculating at this point. I mean, I know by the time I got here, which is pretty late in the incident, there were some technical rescues that they were having to make just based on where some of the victims were located in the collapsed area. There was some type of hoist of some sort that they were elevated. They had to conduct some sort of a technical rescue to get them down.
You said you don't know the construction company that was working on
Correct.
it right now. Do you know if any officials from that unknown construction company came on site?
Our command post was on the airfield side, which is secured by airport operations. So we didn't have people come over to our actual command post. We had responders on the non-airfield side, though.
Okay.
Can you confirm if all of the victims were part of the construction crew?
I don't know that for fact. I mean, I don't know that for fact.
Do we know total how many were working? Did I miss that? Did you know total
I
number of
believe
workers?
the initial report we got was there was 30 people in the area or something, if I'm just trying to remember from the dispatch notes.
Okay.
But like I said, I know there was a dozen that were injured. You got anything else for wrap up?
You said it was a crane that fell on the structure.
No, that's not accurate. I don't know exactly what caused it. The structure collapsed and it did impact the crane.
Okay.
And so the crane is collapsed as well. I don't know I don't know exactly what caused it at this point.
Okay.
When can we expect another
Okay.
press conference or another one tomorrow morning?
We'll provide any updates as they come in.
Yeah, we'll tweet out if we're going to do another press conference. We'll send that on our Twitter page, but we'll probably just be sending out updates via our
Nothing else
social
tonight,
media.
you don't think?
I don't think so. Probably not. Okay, thank you.
Here's the hardest part, right?
Yeah, it's gonna get untangled here.
Taking them all off, right?